Hello, hello. My microphone's all the way over there. I just clicked go live on Instagram, but it's completely pitch black over there. If you're watching on Instagram, oh, that's so strange. Okay, I'm gonna do this over. Let me discard that. Let me try again. Instagram and StreamYard do not get along, so I apologize, folks. Spooky season, things are bound to go wrong.
Technology always gets messed with during spooky
Technology
season.
always gets messed with spooky season. Yeah, we're
Good
having
sign.
trouble
Good
streaming.
sign.
Having trouble streaming to Instagram. No kidding. All right. Pause, folks. How is everybody doing? We're just going to pretend like nothing's going on. Hello, hello.
Hello.
Fine, it's fine. We're moving on.
Say what, Kelsey?
That it's fine. It's fine. We're moving on.
We're moving on. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's all right. It's all right. Let's see. How do we feel about the makeup? I did this very quickly during the Morbidly Curious Fiction Edition book club, which is a Patreon exclusive. And I gotta say, I think I crushed it.
I am a huge fan. When we first came on a few minutes ago before we were on the live and you were just sitting there smiling, the smile is just so perfect.
All right,
it looks so good.
Thank you. Okay, I can see myself now on Instagram. All right, moving on. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Yes, gas me up, please, because this is definitely a look. All right. Hi, everybody. So sorry. I see all of your comments. I appreciate you. Hello. Happy Morbidly Curious Day. Yes, so excited for this. All right, and then we'll get into some ratings. Yes. Okay. Hi. If you are just finding us on the internet, what a weird place to be. But hi, I'm Patricia. Most people call me Patches, and I am the owner and host of the Morbidly Curious Book Club. Welcome. We are discussing our October book, which was Ghostland by Colin Dickey. He is a repeat author for us. We read The Unidentified back in 2022, I want to say. So this has been a real treat to revisit Colin Dickey. And of course, with the book club, we have a couple different goodies, one of them being a podcast where I do get to chat with the authors every month. So I did speak to Colin Dickey and we discussed the book in detail, and it was such a good conversation. I absolutely loved hearing him talk about this book because I loved this book, but we will get into that in a second. I've got some banners here that I need to be throwing up. I feel like an octopus during the live. I'm like, clicking so many different things, but also
the energy is up. Everything's here. I love the vibe, the spooky vibe.
I love it. Thank you. And also, welcome National Park After Dark. We have one half of National Park here today, and hopefully Danielle can join us soon, but we are joined by Cassie from National Park After Dark. Yes. If you guys do not know this podcast, you must. I'm super excited to collab with you. I'm so glad that we were able to make this happen, and I was featured on your podcast, which you say is coming soon, and I wanted to bring you guys on, but to the book club meeting. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate it, and people are really excited about this. I know we were talking about that before we went live, but the worlds are emerging. Things are going great. We have so many, the Venn diagram is Venn diagramming. We have so many mutual friends. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
We really do. Thank you for having us. I mean, when we first announced that we were going to be doing this today, people were like, that's my favorite book club. I'm so excited. And just seeing the crossover that you have with one authors that you speak to, because we use a lot of their books or have had them on our own podcast as well. But then the books that you read, I mean, going through your back catalog, if Danielle was here and maybe she'll pop on later, she would tell you she's read like half of the stuff on your back catalog. Like this just feels like it needs to happen. And I'm so happy that we're here. And I'm stoked to talk about this book because I have so many feelings about this.
Yes, and that's been the general consensus. People have really liked this one. So I'm glad. And it was crazy, and nobody's gonna believe me when I say this, but when you guys first emailed me, I was literally wearing my National Park After Dark shirt. I was gonna wear it tonight, but I couldn't find it. So I just went with Morbidly Curious. But I was literally wearing it when you guys emailed me, and I like had a moment. I was like, are people watching me right now? Like, it feels very what's going on. Can they see me? So it worked out. And of course, Kelsey, welcome back to the show, Morbidly Curious member. Thank you so much for being here. And I definitely know one question coming up soon. I cannot wait to hear your answer to it, just because I know you and adore you. So I'm excited to get into that. Okay, what else am I missing? Shout out to my Patreon members. Thank you guys so much for your support. Again, I mentioned the Fiction Edition Book Club over on the Patreon. We do have an exclusive fiction book club where we read fiction, morbidly curious books. And in October, we read The Possession of Alba Diaz by Isabel Cañas, which was fantastic. And we had a great discussion, even though I did my makeup during it the entire time, which is going to be a great VOD video for you guys to just go back and watch me struggle with black eyeliner. And of course, we also have a spicy book club over there if that is of interest to anybody. So if that is something you're interested in, we do have that. I do have a link to it. I guess I could share that. Why don't I do that? Click, click, click. I actually didn't ask, Cassie, was there a link? Did you want me to just share the National Park After Dark website? Is that where people can find pretty much everything?
Yeah, that'd be great. You'll find our Instagram, Facebook, and not Facebook. I don't know if that's linked. But
I was about to say, do you guys not have a Facebook? Because I tried to tag you guys in the Facebook post earlier and I could not find it.
we do have a Facebook. It is connected. It's connected to Danielle's Facebook account or something, but it is under National Park After Dark. So we are on there, but it's basically whatever you see on Instagram just gets automatically posted on Facebook is the extent. So Instagram is definitely the place where we're most active, and we're trying to get onto TikTok. So occasionally you'll see us post videos there. But we have Patreon. We're all over Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to podcasts, you can listen to National Park After Dark.
Yes, love it. I know Morgan here absolutely loves you guys. She messaged me almost immediately and was like, I can't believe you're talking to them. That's so cool.
Oh, I love that. Hi, Morgan.
Love it. I love it. Yeah, I'm super excited for this, and thank you again. I put the link to everything that you guys were talking about, I think. Yes, absolutely, Kim. I think I put the link to everything I needed to do. Obviously, morbidlycuriousbookclub.com as well. Let's see, tune into podcast. I got that. Like going through all the things here that I need to.
Yeah. Well, if people want to hear our conversation where we talk about a bunch of your favorite books and our favorite books, we're doing a special Halloween episode where Patches is coming on National Park After Dark. So you can come listen to that on Halloween Day.
It was so much fun. And I knew the parameters, which was just like, hey, talk about the book club and bring some books that you would recommend. And like 10 minutes before the recording, I like just stared at my shelves and I was like, oh no.
You have so many books.
I brought like 10.
I'm embarrassed to be sitting in front of my bookshelf. I have another bookshelf to be fair, but when I have this one, I'm like, when I look at yours.
No, it looks great. The vibes. I love the wood. I love the vibes. It looks like a cabin. I'm jealous, to be honest. Yes, go follow National Park After Dark. But yeah, I tried to tag you guys on Facebook earlier and I was like, I don't know if I have one, so I can go back and adjust that. Okay. Let's see. Have a happy and safe Halloween. That's obviously not next on the docket. Why is that next on my list here? Okay. I think that's it. Let's talk about Ghostland. Okay, this, again, repeat author. I went into this, first of all, because some lore to this. If you have been here since 2024, January 2024 to be exact, we read a little book called Dark Archives by Megan Rosenblum, which is about books bound in human skin. If you guys have not read Dark Archives, holy shit, you must. It is a fantastic book. So good. And Megan was great. And I reached out to Megan back in January and I was like, hey, I think I'm going to do a podcast where I talk with the authors because we connected on Instagram. I was like, I haven't done this yet. I don't know if it's going to go well, but I'm thinking about doing a podcast where I chat with the authors. You would be the first. Would you talk to me? And she was like, yeah, of course. So we all thank Megan for the success that the podcast is now because she gave me a chance. But at the end of it, I was like, hey, do you have any recommendations of books that we should read for the book club? And immediately, without skipping a beat, she said Ghostland by Colin Dickey. She says, you have to read this book. You have to read this book. I was like, oh, we've read Colin Dickey before. Interesting. I have it. I've had this book for a while. I got it it's secondhand and it was kind of falling apart, but that's what I love about a book. Did not crack the spine, which I know Cassie is a big fan of. But honestly, like it flopped great. I didn't even need to.
Someone broke it in for you first.
Somebody broke it in for me already, but no, the spine is intact. And she was like, you have to read Ghostland. So we picked it. And I was like, great, we're going to read a spooky book about ghosts in October. And then I started reading it and I was like, oh, this is not what I thought it was, but it's everything I want it to be. Like, this is actually perfect. Colin Dickey, I was not aware of your game. This is amazing. I absolutely love this book. So, basic question, Cassie, we'll start with you. Overall thoughts on the book? what did you rate it? If you rate your books, and did you think this is what book was going to be? Because I'm one of those people, I don't really read synopsis before going in. I can't remember if you said you did or not.
I do. So I had an overall feeling of what was going to happen when I read the book, but I was very surprised, even knowing, because I have never read a book that goes about talking about paranormal activity the way that this one does.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting, I think, reading this book because the author is clearly a skeptic, or flat out does not believe in the paranormal at all. So to write an entire book that surrounds that, I just thought it was so interesting to hear his perspective. And also, as someone who really loves history, I was eating up a lot of these, not even the paranormal part, but the history parts where I'm like, wait, what happened here? And I'm like Googling, I'm like, well, tell me more. And
I learned so much that I did not know, or thought I knew, but it was wrong.
Yeah, even some of the things where I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard this ghost story before. And then he's like, fun fact, and none of that is true. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, by the way, everything you thought you knew about Sarah Winchester, wrong.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah, so overall for the book, I really enjoyed the history aspects. I thought that it was a totally different take on the paranormal that I'm not used to. There were points where I was like, come on, just let it be fun and spooky, you know, like not the debunking of every single thing that was happening. But at the same time, I appreciated it, looking at it at a real perspective and not trying to fabricate or embellish the real stories, because I can certainly appreciate that there is something that can be even more interesting in real history than a made up character or paranormal character later. Right. So I would say my rating for this book, I would probably give it like an 8.
8 out of 10.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it.
Love that. Yeah, we definitely need to preface, or I guess let you guys know that bookclubs.com, which you guys use as well, their ratings are out of 10. So sometimes people will come on here and be like, I gave it a 4. And we're like, oh, that's a good rating. And they're like, no. 4 out of 10. So, so it's an 8, we can assume, yes. But so 8 out of 10, that's a good rating. Yeah, I think if I were to, I would probably give this a 9.5 out of 10, personally. I loved this book. I loved it. Kelsey, yay, nay, thoughts?
I enjoyed it a lot more than, and I didn't think I wasn't going to enjoy it. We'll start out. It's kind of hovering like 4.5 for me. I want it to be a 5, but I feel like towards the end, I thought got a little repetitive on haunted cities. And I'm like, okay, like I get it. But otherwise, like, really enjoyed his tone. I typically am not one who goes in and reads synopsises before books. I did on this one because after now, we did, and I'm not going to remember her last name. We did Amy from Kindred Spirits and then Adam Berry. So I think for Ghosts, I was like, okay, I want to know what I'm getting into here, because great, lovely people. Sometimes they're like, oh my God, like, I just feel the spirits. And I'm like, okay. So I wanted to know what I was getting into for the ghost book for this year. And when I read the synopsis, I think I just read the Goodreads summary of it. And when I read that, I was like, oh no, I think I'm going to like be way more into this book than previous paranormal books. Because much like Cassie, history nerd, I'm like, history? Sign me up. Let's go. And then it just felt like such a refreshing paradigm shift in talking about paranormal things that I didn't feel was diminutive of like people who do believe, but I think felt so much more grounded in like, hey, like these are probably some of the psychological and like societal reasons we ascribe these meanings to these places, and like we use these stories to talk about the like horrific things that like typically we don't talk about in our society. And it was refreshing and I loved it a lot.
I was definitely interested to hear what you thought about the psychological part of things, knowing your profession and everything too. So I was curious about that. Yeah, well, that, I mean, leads me perfectly into my next question. I guess we'll go ahead and start with you, Kelsey, because I know the answer to this one. Do you believe in ghosts? You know, however you want to slice that. Like, what exactly does a ghost, you know, mean to you? Why or why not in any good stories? That seems to be the thing that's come out of a lot of the chapter meetings, which by the way, we do this live show at the end of every month, but also we do have chapters all around the world. And I do host some in like the greater Charlotte area of North Carolina. And a lot of meetings have been full of just like really creepy ghost stories, which has been great. But Kelsey,
I do not believe in ghosts. And I want to say it's not for lack of trying. Like, I think in my younger, like, 20s and, like, college years, I, like, did a lot of the, like, haunted junk at my university. Like, the tunnels between, like, our university and, like, our outdoor theater were supposed to be, like, super haunted. And I went many a nights, like, down in there. Like, I would go to we had sheep tunnels that were allegedly haunted. Like, spent
sheep?
many an ill-advised night wandering around the sheep tunnels. Like,
Wow.
and just have not ever in my like had any personal experience with anything. Am also like reformed Catholic schoolgirl, and so like have a very cynical, like agnostic, bordering on atheist like view of the afterlife in general. So like with that lens also, like ghosts just don't really fit into that worldview.
Speaking of ghosts, boo! Here's Danielle.
Oh my god. Hi guys.
She made it.
I'm out of breath.
I ran here.
Strewn everywhere in this hotel room. I'm like, I need a sip of water. Hold on.
She's like, oh,
Made it.
she let me in the room. Well, thank you for being here. So sorry your flight got delayed. We're glad you were able to
That's
join us,
okay.
though.
It's so funny. I was texting Cassie. I'm like, okay, I'm giving her updates, along the journey across the country. And I'm like, I'm watching you guys in my Uber. So, like,
I see it happening.
Yeah.
That's
Sorry
amazing.
to interrupt, but I just wanted to actually make an appearance instead of just
No, we're so glad.
watching.
I was telling I know you were watching a little bit of the show, but I was telling Cassie beforehand too, during and even before we went live. So many people are stoked about this collab. I mean, we have so many
nice.
crossover fans. I love it. It makes me so happy. So I'm so happy that we were able to do this, and I'm stoked for the podcast episode. This has just been a real treat. So I'm grateful for your time. So sorry your day has been fucking crazy.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm here. It's fine. And
So
I'm happy.
Cassie, ghosts, yay, nay. What do we think? Any ghost stories?
Yeah, I don't know. Like yes, I believe in ghosts. Do I think that it is what is hyped up all the time? Not always. I do think that this book had a really good point that things are fabricated and there are things that can be explained and to be like every time a light flickers, that's a ghost is not realistic. But I really truly believe that there are energies and spirits that do hang around. I don't think that looks always like a weird ghost figure hanging behind your bed or something, but I do believe that there are spirits that are around. I have never physically seen anything, but I've definitely felt energy shifts in certain places, and I've had experiences that I can't really explain that weren't some type of paranormal. I just don't think I wouldn't say that I think that every like this place is certainly haunted is always true, but I do believe that ghosts exist.
Totally. And quick shout out to my buddy Colin Scrivener, who wrote the book Morbidly Curious that came out recently too. He had a really interesting, because he's also kind of, I guess, similar to like Colin Dickey, a little bit agnostic towards the idea of ghosts, where he's like, yeah, I've heard some weird shit, but I can't like necessarily pinpoint, I'm not going to just suddenly become a believer. And something that I respected about Colin Dickey too, which you guys heard on the podcast, was he was like, I'm not going to sit here and try and make you believe in anything. And there's no way. It's like really topic of religion, like having a conversation on religion where you're like, there's nothing I can probably say that's going to make you believe. And there's nothing that I'm going to say to a believer that's going to make you suddenly turn into a skeptic. But Colin Scrivener in his book did a really interesting study on the paranormal where he talks about how certain groups and certain studies that they have done, if they told a certain group, like there was a bunch of, they took them to like, a house or a hotel or whatever, and they told them like, this is the scariest, and they had heart monitors on them and everything. This is the scariest hotel in the country or whatever. Anytime a light would flicker or they would hear the air conditioning turn on, their heart rate would spike. But another group, they told them like, no, this is just a hotel. Like they weren't as active towards or didn't react as much towards some of the noises that they were hearing. So it is an interesting psychological thing that I do
Really?
think, you know, we have over time molded into what we know as the ghost story, but not to discredit some of the weird shit that people have seen, stuff that I've seen that I can't explain. Absolutely. But it is interesting. The conversation around, like, you know, what exactly does that mean, especially in the 21st century too. Somebody brought that up in one of the chapter meetings. They're like, we have cell phones now. Why aren't we taking pictures of ghosts all the time? Like, what's the deal?
Some
So
people
anyway.
are. Danielle and I did a ghost tour at the Stanley Hotel, and they had some scary photos that if they didn't tell me they were ghosts, I would have thought they were either real people or, I mean, some of them, they were clear. They look like little demon children, and some of them, it was like, some of them were weird. I was like, I don't know if that's not an actual person there, and you guys are really saying no one was there. That is scary.
Right? Yeah, that place is pretty creepy. So Danielle, question before we get to this one. Overall thoughts on the book. Do you rate your books? Obviously, we're not cracking spines over there for you, but what do you think of the book?
It's against my religion. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, is that?
Yeah, if you're gonna do 10 or 5, however you want to slice it.
I think that I really enjoyed this book, and I did say I was listening to you guys on the Uber ride, but my Uber driver was also trying to talk to me, so I might have missed it. But this is, you're breaking a sacred rule of. But I think I would give it like a 7.5. And I only say that because at face value, this is like my bread and butter type of book as far as the content and the topics covered and the different historical anecdotes and things like that. But it was kind of a little bit of a, for someone who takes the paranormal seriously, I was kind of torn about it because one half of me, like I was telling Cassie earlier in a conversation, I'm like, you know, I feel better for reading this book. Like I feel like a more informed person and consumer of haunted places and a consumer of like the paranormal stops on every city tour and things like that. So for that gained perspective, I'm thankful for reading this. But the other half of me who grew up a New England girl who is, you know, surrounded by spooky places and stories, I felt a little bummed as far as like, and not bummed I just felt a little deflated, I guess.
Yeah.
Like the magic was taken out of some of the stories.
Yeah.
But so I felt very conflicted because I was appreciative of the deflation, like the kick, I guess. I was just like, okay, well, it's fair. I'm not mad at it. So for that reason, probably 7.5. But otherwise, I loved it. I thought it was engaging. I learned a lot. And I would totally recommend it to other people.
I was throughout the book hoping that there would be one chapter that was just not debunked at all. And who was just like, this was Ghost. And I kind of felt like I was waiting for that throughout the whole book, where I was just waiting for him to be like, you know, it could be this and this and this, but all I found was that this is paranormal.
Yeah.
It just like never happened.
It just never came.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's
like,
it.
oh, you have a reason for that too. Right.
He would start off stories and you're like, oh, something's happening. And then by the end
it's
of it,
coming.
but by the way, this was not true. None of this happened. And you're like,
Get through the first page and he's like, psych, these people aren't real. And I'm like, okay, you got me.
Yeah, I totally get what you mean, Danielle, because I obviously appreciate the transparency, I guess, pun intended, I guess, when it comes to some of these stories, because I think, you know, oral stories are incredibly important. And at a time, too, when history in general, I just feel like needs to be told correctly. Like, I totally get where he's coming from. But yeah, it's like you saw how the sausage was made, and now you're like, gross.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of this now, yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit of a bummer. He did say that on the podcast too, where he was like, a lot of the 1-star reviews are people just being like, well, you ruined ghosts for me, thanks. Like, ghost Scrooge. So you do believe in ghosts, no question about it type thing? You have any cool stories for us?
I do believe in ghosts. However, I think that my perception of what ghosts are, my idea of that whole realm has shifted significantly from growing up to within the last like 4 or 5 years. And I've had a couple of experiences that I think are more lie on the more spiritual end of the spectrum versus like I was haunted. But I did have something happen to me when I was living in Evergreen, Colorado. This was in 2023, and I was laying in bed and I was not asleep, but I had woken up and I felt scared. And I kind of like when you're about to open your eyes and you're awake, but you're not fully up yet. You're kind of in that in between, like, okay, I'm about to get up type of thing.
Yeah.
I just felt a little uneasy. And when I opened my eyes at the foot of my bed, I saw a group of people.
Nice.
And I have never had an experience like this before, and I never have since. And they were, I could tell there was like 4 or 5 of them. Some looked smaller, like children size, while others were larger, like adults. And they were all huddled in one group at the foot of my bed near the corner of the room. And it's like as if they recognized when I recognized them, and they took a step forward towards me collectively. But it wasn't menacing. It was just kind of like, hey, we're here. Type of thing. And then they went away and I never saw them again. And that was it. So I don't know what that was about. But it certainly left an impression. And it was the first time I've ever seen like an apparition or anything like that. But
hate that.
Yeah, it was unsettling, especially because the house that I was in was it was only like 520 square feet, and it was a renovated 1930s hunting cabin that was into like a small 1-bedroom type of thing. And I loved the space. I never felt like creeped out other than that point in time. But I lived by myself, and weird stuff happened with my cameras, now that I think about it, for a little while. But other than that.
Yeah, you did have a lot of orbs on your cameras for a while.
I did. And it was picking up motion sensing, like right in front of me when nothing was happening. And my dogs would freak out I've had my dogs for 10 years and they've never acted like that before.
Oh my God.
All those types of classic things. So anyway, that was great. And it solidified my belief that something happens after this, in my humble opinion. Do I know what that is? No. Do I think that every single place that has had a death or weird happening is haunted? No. Right. But I think that doesn't negate the fact that it can exist in certain places.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with the comment here. I think it was from Sierra. Would cry. Love it for you. Would cry.
My heart was pounding. In that moment, I realized I'm a freeze person. I'm not a fight. I'm a flight. I'm a freeze.
Yeah. I had the only thing similar to that as far as apparition was when I was a kid, and we were at the house that I grew up in until I was about 5. Something happened in the middle of the night too, where I was woken up, and then I got up out of bed, and when I looked back in bed, somebody was laying in the bed where I was. But I chalked that up to being like a kid. I was like, what does she know? She's 5. But the only other time was when I lived in Los Angeles. I actually did stay at the Millennium Biltmore Hotel, which is mentioned in this book, where allegedly the Black Dahlia was last seen. But also it's rich in history. Los Angeles is one of those places where you could stand pretty much anywhere, and there's some sort of thing that happened there, good or bad, no matter what. Just everywhere. And so the Millennium Biltmore Hotel was where they first started to host the Academy Awards. And this was right after a year after COVID. So, restrictions there was a lot of restrictions still. But we were wandering around. I was with an old friend of mine who actually worked at Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum. She's been on Ghost Adventures before. Like, she's actually a ghost hunter. I don't think she does it anymore. But we were there with her husband at the time, all this equipment, and security actually found us. And they were like, hey, what are you guys doing? And we were like, do we lie? Do we lie? What do we say? Because we're not supposed to be here. We're not supposed to have all this equipment. And we told them, we were like, yeah, well, we're ghost hunting. We're just searching and kind of wandering around. And they were like, well, do you want to see the ballroom? And we were like, are we about to be murdered? Or do we say yes? Yes, we would like to see the ballroom. And in the ballroom, we heard the piano play by itself, which was really creepy. But also, and I think something that I really love that Colin Dickey did too, was talk about just like the uneasiness of a room and how sometimes we can attribute that to hauntings, because a empty ballroom that's massive with nothing in it, creepy in itself already. So anything we heard, we were like, freaking out. Piano playing by itself, though, that's a pretty distinct noise that you really can't, connect with anything else. We heard a couple voices, but we also kind of chalked that up to being a hotel. I mean, there was a few people there, but not that many. But the creepiest thing is we had an iPad that was, doing the whole picking up AM, FM stations, and like voices would come through, as you guys have probably seen on, there's a word for it. Adam Barry's yelling at me right now. There's a word for that. But it suddenly started playing a movie, and the iPad froze, couldn't turn it off, couldn't exit out of the apps, couldn't do anything. And it was this really creepy movie that we have yet to figure out what the movie was. But what was creepy about it, it was really loud. We couldn't turn the volume down. It just would not work. But it was a kid talking, and it was like a really, really old movie, which is cool because it was like, again, this is where they were hosting. It sounded like a Shirley Temple, like very high-pitched kid just talking about something. And it was just echoing throughout this ballroom. It was so loud, but we could not get the iPad to do anything but play this movie. And then it just suddenly felt like, if you closed your eyes, it felt like there was like 1,000 people in the room with you. Like the energy just changed, where suddenly you were like, I'm not alone. And all I could do, apparently I'm a fawn because I just hit the ground. I was like, I don't want to move. And my friend is like handing me crystals, and I'm like, what do I do with this? Okay, I don't know. Like, I'm just gonna lay here. And then finally the iPad stopped, and then it felt like the room was empty again. Oh my God, it was the creepiest thing ever. But like, is that a ghost? I don't know. Weird technology, old building.
Yeah.
But scary nonetheless.
That story kind of reminds me of what I think Cassie is. And Cassie is it's none of my business type of person.
Yeah, I'm like, ding, I'm just here.
Me too.
We actually had a strange encounter together. I was unaware of it. And Cassie was the epitome of, I can't be bothered with that.
Are you talking about Yosemite?
Yes, I sure am.
So we were in Yosemite, and we were staying at some glamping tents. And we were in, I guess it wasn't a glamping tent, it was a yurt that we were staying in. So it was a big circle room, and we had beds that were next to each other. And I had been facing away from Danielle when I fell asleep, and I woke up and I was still facing away from her, but I kind of woke up really quickly. And my first thought was, check on Danielle. Someone's watching her.
Oh God.
And it was just like this weird, it was just like in my head, it was like, check on Danielle. So I kind of like, it's like, okay. And I roll over and I look and I see Danielle sitting on the end of her bed, but it was really dark. It was really, really dark in the area.
Oh, sorry. It gets worse.
It was really dark in the yurt. So I'm like looking, and I'm like waiting for my eyes to adjust because my eyes haven't been open that long. And I'm looking and I'm like, is she sitting there? And it just looks like Danielle's sitting there with her hair in front of her face like this. Like, and
absolutely not.
I'm looking, and I was almost gonna be like, Danielle, are you okay? But I'm like, I don't want to bother her. Like, if she's like having a moment or something, I don't know. Like, if she's wanted some privacy for this, I don't know. Like, I felt like I was interrupting or something. And I'm like, and then I look at her pillow, and Danielle's she's asleep on her pillow.
And freaking possessed by something.
And I looked back, and I was like, I don't know. And I was like, well, I gotta go back to bed.
You're like, that's above my pay grade.
She didn't tell me till the next day. She was like, hey, how's it? How you feeling?
Like, what were you doing last night?
How you doing?
I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, oh, there was just like a your like weird evil twin entity succubus thing was I
No
couldn't believe
worries.
it.
Just
Like, okay.
Like over
your
breakfast.
soul leave your body last night, so I was just curious.
They're like,
how it went.
she seemed chill. She seemed cool.
Yeah, she seemed
was
fine.
sitting
She
there.
just, you know, maybe needed to brush her hair, but she seemed cool. I don't know.
Yeah, at the time, my first thought was like, am I really seeing Danielle, or am I just seeing like shadows in the dark that look like her? But I really was like, oh, she's really sitting there. But then when I looked and I saw her very clearly on her pillow, I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like, it's still her,
Yeah.
so it must be
Long story
fine.
short, ghosts are real because
Yeah.
we don't know what that was.
Yeah.
Literally, this is how every camping horror movie starts. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. And you just went right back to bed. I wouldn't have been able to sleep after that.
It's kind of like, not with paranormal, but it's kind of just my MO when we camp or when we're anywhere. I just throw headphones in or earplugs and I'm like, not my business. I'm going to bed.
So funny. That's hilarious. Well, creeped out now. Now I'm going to start seeing stuff in the shadows. My next question is something that we've kind of already covered, but I do think it's super important to touch on, which is, you know, did Colin Dickey make you rethink how we view ghosts and tell their stories? Because, yeah, a lot of people were upset that he debunked a lot, but something that we did discuss was, well, these are really important topics that we need to be discussing because, one, it's either incorrect, like they're just not told correctly, and it's because of either misogyny, bigotry, racism, whatever. Or, you know, and it's also interesting how he also correlated this to true crime stories as well, and how we view certain true crime stories, like, you know, bringing up Elisa Lam, where this was supposed to be a family tragedy. This was supposed to be something, you know, that a family was dealing with. But since we had all this footage of her wandering around the hotel, people made it into like this big spectacle. So it is interesting how that translated over. But is there anything else on this question that you guys wanted to touch on? Cass, we could start with you if you have anything.
Yeah, I really liked his approach with that. I mean, like we mentioned before, it kind of took a little bit of magic out of some paranormal stuff, but especially I thought one of the most interesting part of the books for me was when he dove into slave history and he said, why are all of the ghosts in the South white? It's like, where is this coming from? And then he went into some horrific details about some history and slavery that I had never heard before. Yep. And I thought that that was really interesting, but he just made so many good points about how we've decided to create a lot of ghost tours or history that we like to remember, but then we kind of like shove some of the other stuff away because they're like, oh, that's not good for a paranormal story. That's not the type of ghost story we want to lean into. So I thought that it was interesting because I had never honestly thought about paranormal ghost stories leaking into racism. And that was a whole new realm for me, just learning about that. But also I thought that it was interesting to not look, for me, when I've thought of paranormal and ghost stories and ghost tours and stuff, I've always thought of it as kind of like this fluff of like, it's fun, it's interesting. Not fluff, that's not a good word, but
no,
just,
but I get what you're saying. Yeah.
It's like, it's fun, it's interesting, you want to go and learn and you're not feeling like super dark about it. But then when you really sit back and think about it for a minute, you're like, okay, wait, these stories are really dark. And if you're ignoring some of them and only paying attention to others, it's kind of almost darker because now you're contributing to forgetting certain stories. And I just thought there were a lot of eye-opening history throughout that I appreciated.
Yeah, the chapter on the KKK made me absolutely ill.
Yeah. It was, some of the stuff was, I mean, I was listening to it on audio book and I had to pause a couple times during that because I was like, what? Like, I didn't know. I honestly just had no idea that some of the stuff that they were talking about had happened.
Yeah. Especially in a time too, not to be directly on the nose with what's happening now, but like clearly history is being erased, especially when it comes to certain parts of history like that too. So just how it's just so freaking important that we just tell accurate stories. And that translates into ghost stories. Because you're right, how many like people can you pull into a place, however, you know, hotel, house, whatever, just because it's like, oh, it might be haunted. Like people come in droves to locations like that, and you get there and it's not even the right story. Like, come on.
I did think he made a good point, though, that I thought was interesting, where he said the same thing, like, you get people in because of the ghost stories, who's going to want to hang out for the history. But then he also said, you know, I think the history is what who's to say that that's not going to attract more people knowing that this happened here. So I thought that that was a good point, because I've always, like, even on our podcast, I've always liked leaning into the true history behind things and being like, wait, this is actually really interesting, maybe more interesting than the story you thought you knew.
I don't know where I went just there, by the way, but I was listening. I don't know what happened there. Spooky. But yeah, 100%. Danielle, thoughts? Anything else you wanted to add on to this one?
Yeah, I guess segueing off of that, I mean, one of the chapters that stuck with me the most was Sarah Winchester's, and that's solely because it is a story that I have heard perpetuated and hawked the same way over and over and over again. And it feels like if you were to approach that with any sort of critical thinking skills, that you know that there must be more to this story than what is kind of plastered on the billboards and things like that. And just over time has been, you know, just sold as this, you know, weird, crazy lady that was haunted and just went off the rails type of thing. Because as we kind of all know, collectively are starting to wake up to, that version of women throughout history is often very false and has been created by, you know, others and men. And we actually just talked about this at length. I had been waiting to do a story on a national park. Every episode we do of National Park After Dark, we tie to a park in some way. This one was a bit of a stretch, but in Great Basin National Park in Nevada, about 11 years ago now, they found a Winchester rifle leaning up against a tree that had been placed there over 100 years ago and forgotten. So the park archaeologists are kind of investigating, like, who could this have belonged to? Like, this was the gun that won the West, and, you know, this whole thing. And so I kind of used that as a springboard to segue into the Winchester Mystery House and Sarah's story. So when I was actively researching and writing that story, it coincided with this book, and getting to read her chapter was just all the confirmation that I needed. Like, this should be told, because yes, the information is out there. There are books about her and just how wonderful of a person and how misunderstood she was at the time. And when we were recording, Cassie made a comment. She's like, all of what you're explaining this woman to be seems very normal by today's standards. And to have her get such a bad edit in history is a good reminder that if this happened to this one woman and this one ghost story, where else is it? And in what other stories is it in? So I love that chapter because it was a good reminder to just look a little deeper at the people behind a lot of these legends that are kind of edited to be crazy. And yeah,
it was a bummer for sure. And I you know, I've never been to the house. I've always wanted to go to the Winchester Mystery House, and it just sucks now because, again, the magic was taken out of it. And to know that she didn't even live there, like, most of the time, I never knew that.
Yeah, it's gonna be way less exciting now.
Yeah, I mean, and when I was reading about her and her passion for architecture and design and all that, I think the episode, we recorded it a couple days ago. It's not coming out for another 2 weeks or so, but I mean, her story, just like Cassie was saying, the true story, in my view, is so much more interesting than the story of she was haunted by the ghosts of people that her family's guns killed. Like, you know what I mean? It's just the house can be wonderful and her story can be intriguing without all that other stuff.
Yeah.
So,
and actually, this is a great point, Valerie, and there's something I do want to bring up about that in a second. Kelsey, go ahead if there's anything. Write this down. Forget.
Fair. From the other end of the spectrum, as far as like thinking about ghosts differently, and maybe it's because I didn't have a lot of like magic or razzle dazzle regarding ghosts or spirits to kind of lose on the front end. But if anything, I feel like reading through made me more, I don't want to say, it's not open isn't the word, but maybe like sympathetic or understanding of like the ghost stories and people who believe in ghosts and spirits, in the sense that I'm like, oh, well, obviously, like, as humans who are just trying to exist on this rock hurtling through space without rhyme or reason, like, of course we're trying to make meaning out of these things we see, or we like encounter these uncanny things and we want an explanation for them, and we want something that assuages some anxiety about like what comes after this life. And I'm like, okay, all of these things are making a lot more sense than he referenced it, which I appreciated. He's like, oh, and in 2008 there was this big boom of like ghost hunting. And I attribute the years of 2008 to about 2013 ghosts on TV contributing to a lot of my cynicism about ghosts and spirits, because I was just inundated with ghost hunting shows that like were so unserious, and like half of them like did not like care about anything except like the grift and making money, and it was just like so staged. And like, so I come from a lot of that background, so this shifted my views in that of, it's like, oh, like, of course we're telling ghost stories. Like, of course we're trying to ascribe meaning and make sense of these things that at the time, like, we might not have had good sense for. Like, we can look at things that happened in like the 1800s today and be like, oh, well, obviously, but
yeah,
no, they didn't know that.
Yeah, a perk on the Patreon too. We we watch a documentary together at the end of every month, and last night I wasn't able to make it, but the other night we watched
right
Zach
over my head.
Zach Bagans' Demon House, which is
Right.
so ridiculous.
I haven't had the pleasure.
I haven't seen it either.
I literally, as I say that, Morgan commented, I listen, and I would be lying if I didn't say I love Zach Bagans. Not as like a person, I don't know what it is, but his personality just makes me giggle. And I don't know what it is. I that's probably a lie. I do know what it is, and I think it's opposite. And Demon House was wild. I actually grew up, I feel like my parents always had ghost hunting shows on. Like, we were always watching Most Haunted, we were always watching Ghost Hunters and Ghost Hunters Academy, and that's where we first discovered Adam Berry, and like like X-Files, Twin Peaks, or whatever. Like, they always just had something spooky on. Like, that's just how my family operated. Because one of Colin Dickey's questions to me on the podcast was, why do you watch those shows? And I was like, it's nostalgia. But there's something so stupid about it. I love it. Like, it's probably how a lot of people feel about most reality TV. Like, that's just that is my Mormon wives, I guess, or that is my Real Housewives.
It's your guilty pleasure.
That's your TLC.
Yeah.
This is my TLC. Thank you. Yes.
You mentioned Adam Berry. Did you read his Hello Goodbye book?
Yes, we read that last year, and it was so good. I love him as a person, and
yeah,
that was one of the funniest podcast episodes I've ever done, because he's just a trip. So good. And then we read Amy Bruni's book, I think the year before that. Bruni, yeah. I love them. Amy Bruni was just in Cary, North Carolina, which isn't necessarily close to me, but I should have gone to see her. I really wanted to meet her in person. But yeah, Goodbye Hello that was a really profound book, and I think Adam Berry is a good shining light. Like, both of them, I think, with Kindred Spirits. It's like a really good shining light in the ghost hunting like reality TV business, because you could tell like their heart's in a good place. They're not there to like.
He just seems genuine.
Yes, they're very genuine people, and I love their stories. And of course, on the podcast, I did ask him. I was like, "So how many of these ghost shows are actually real?" And he's like, "Well, I can only speak for Kindred Spirits, and it's real." So, and I was like, "Damn!" I was really hoping he would like dish out some crazy tea, which I'm sure he has, but. Brings me to the question though, which I found fascinating, how some places know full and well their history, whether like a murder happened in this house or a murder happened in this hotel, or there's a whole bunch of history here and there. But some places really don't want to advertise as such. They really don't want people to know about these. Like, they're trying to push the past in the past, and they don't really want people coming here for the ghost stories. And then you have other places, like somebody mentioned the Sarah Winchester house, where they like have a TikTok page. They're constantly talking about the ghosts, and they're constantly talking about this and the other. Does that dissuade you, I guess, from visiting a place if like they're really, or do you have a certain opinion on how people react to their history? Like, do you think they should be talking about their ghosts? Because with talking about their ghosts, they're talking about their history. How do we feel about that? Does anybody have certain feelings, thoughts and feels on that one?
I do. I think there's a super fine line to be walked with that. And Cassie and I travel a lot.
Yeah.
And we seek out a lot of these places on those travels, mostly for the history angle. We're never really in it for the like stories that people share on Reddit about the hauntings in them and stuff. Like we're there to feel and learn about what happened in a space or a location. I think when it gets to like, where were we in Old Town San Diego? What's that super haunted house there?
Oh, I know where you're talking about, but I don't remember because we didn't go inside. We were just outside.
The Whaley House.
Yes.
The Whaley House.
Yes. Yeah.
Like the Whaley House, the Winchester Mystery House. Honestly, and I feel bad saying this because it's one of my favorite places in the world, the Stanley Hotel. When they advertise to that extent those certain stories and spooky phenomenon, I think it takes away from the true like roots of that history, and I think it can get a little lost in the sauce.
Yeah.
And I think that there's totally benefits to that. It draws people in, it gets business, it gets eyes on a location, it gets visitation to certain spaces that may not otherwise have it. But at the same time, like it can be a little hokey feeling and take away from like the genuine charm of certain places. So I think it's like right there in the middle for me, because for people to deny, then it's like, okay, but what's really going on here?
Yeah. Like, why don't you want to talk about this? Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah, I have similar feelings. I would love to see people lean more into their history. Like one hotel that just comes to mind right off the bat, which I would have loved to see a lot more about when we went, would be the Crescent Hotel in Arkansas.
Oh, yeah.
Because that hotel has so much history and it's dark. I mean, it is really dark. I mean, recently, I think it was 2000, don't quote me on this because I don't remember the year, but I think it was like 2021 or something. They were doing landscaping in their backyard and they found a bunch of remains of people back there. And they found like jarred up remains of people's organs in the backyard, because this hotel at one point was a hospital, and hospital, very loose, use that word very loosely. And it was basically this guy who had no business treating patients and was just doing experimental treatment to make money. And a lot of people were horrifically treated there. And you can even, when we were there, we went down into the basement where they actually have, where you can still see today, all of these different body parts in jars. And it was basically, what was that room? It wasn't where they treated them. It was after they died. They went down there, right?
It's the morgue.
The morgue. Yeah. I couldn't remember if that was like part of the hospital. It was the morgue that you went down there and you could still see the drain from where they embalmed or whatever to people down there. And that was really spooky. So they did lean into the ghost thing a little bit, like turning off the lights and things like that. And they had really dark lighting when you were down there. So I thought it was cool that they leaned into at least that portion. But there were so many parts around the hotel where it was like, I would have loved to know what this wing was used for or what this was used for. And I just felt like that could have been. So there's really interesting history, I think, diving into it, and not necessarily even a paranormal way, just
well, and that's a perfect example, like, because when we were there, we stayed in the suite of that like mad scientist, doctor, businessman, snake oil salesman, I forget his name,
too. I'd have to relook it up.
But yeah, like the hotel is like so honed in on his story, and yet there are dozens of his victims that I couldn't tell you there. I mean, if I heard his name, I would recognize it, so at least there's that. But you know, just leaning into like what types of people found themselves here, like what about that side of the story versus this guy who just was essentially murdering people, you know, or killing people. But anyway, yeah. So just kind of, that was another example of like, here's one little sliver of the story. But other cool things happened in that hotel too. And that they're barely advertised. So yeah.
Well, with like a place like that where they still have like the original appliances or drain holes as you're talking about, like with that, I feel like they kind of have to talk about it. But would it be best to kind of talk about it in more of like a historical sense, where they have like a plaque on the wall and they're like, here is where the morgue was, or are they showing it as like, here's who haunts this place? Like there's definitely a difference, and one for sure feels like Alyssa is saying here, a commercialization of somebody's death. And that's a huge thing with like the Cecil Hotel, with all the you know, history with that. So Kelsey, was there anything you wanted to add to
No, other than I think it would be the fine line of like how we handle true crime today. If it's like, are we just like, he had a different word for it, but like, are we just like torture porning like this for the money? Like, are we just grifting? Because like, wouldn't love that. Yeah. There's a way to like do history and like mix, like blend those two things together if they do want the paranormal aspect, but to like include history, like I think there's a place for that. But
yeah, he talked about his friend's fiance that killed themselves in college, and I love his line where he was talking about this was somebody's worst day ever. Somebody's tragedy has been turned into somebody's cold chills, like somebody's eerie feelings, and that says a lot. But yeah, going back to Elisa Lam, like a lot of these stories have just been sensationalized, when stuff like Elisa Lam was actually, it should have been a poster for bipolar disorder and how to appropriately approach some of these situations, but instead it's like, who is she talking to in the elevator? And it's like, well guys, that's not the point. The point is not that. The point is this. So, and also I really love his discussion on ruin porn, like in Detroit, like these abandoned buildings, which by the way, I don't know if you guys look this up. My phone's about to die, but I have to show you this because I never knew this. I did a lot back in the day. I loved exploring abandoned buildings, but he mentions this parking garage in Detroit. Did you guys look this up?
I didn't look it up either.
No.
So it's an old theater, but they turned it into a parking garage. How creepy is that?
That's a parking garage?
That's where do you park?
Okay.
Oh, I do see it. It looked like a bed for a minute.
Here's another picture. It's an old theater.
Wow, that's really cool. That's sick.
Yeah.
That feels like a luxury car garage. Like I would expect someone to come out and serve me an hors d'oeuvre when I park and like take my jacket.
And then take my car out in a music video. Yeah, I never knew that existed until I looked that up. Well, kind of winding down here, we've been chatting for just under an hour. My last question was, you know, eerily, this book came out 10 years ago. This book published in 2016, but he very eerily at the end talks about the concept of smart homes. I don't think he necessarily called them that, but that's kind of what we call them today. And he talks about like what's going to happen in 2026, which I thought was really being spot on. But you know, an example in the book is similar to what we have here, like the way that Christopher has the hockey puck, ALEXA, set up. Like we have things that happen at certain times, like the lights all turn out on it, or the lights all come on at 5:30, the lights turn off at midnight, the TV turns off by itself at 2. And at the end of the book he has this story of these two girls who inherited their dad's home, but being there, it was almost like he was still haunting the place because he has all these like things set up, like the garage door to close at a certain time. So thoughts on this final section, and what do you think our future hauntings will entail? And we can of course like bring in the smart home concept or AI or anything like that, but is there anything specifically on that final chapter that made you think, Cassie?
One of the things that also caught my attention in that was talking about people who have passed away that are on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and getting these random suggestions to add them as a friend, because I've definitely been on the other end of that. And it's not like a ghostly haunting, I would say, but just kind of like a jump scare almost of seeing stuff like that sometimes if you're not expecting it. Of course, if you're friends with someone on Facebook who passed away and you're seeing people write on their wall and things like that, that's different than the one girl who died and then she was pulled for an advertisement for meeting singles in Canada. Like that is like, those are the kind of things that I think might change. I do think it has changed a little bit though since he wrote the book, because now Facebook and stuff has a feature of like remembering so and so, and they've made it so they can recognize sometimes when people have passed away. But that was one that I thought of because essentially we're new to social media. Facebook started with our generation pretty much. And one day there's probably going to be more people on Facebook that are not alive than are alive. And that's going to be a weird time for the people who are around for that. So that was just thinking about that kind of was interesting to me.
And I'd love this. Tori, thank you for sharing that. That's super sweet. And yeah, seeing a birthday notice for somebody who's passed is really creepy on Facebook. And then we read about that last year, Over My Dead Body by Greg Melville, where he talks about how Facebook is actually technically the biggest graveyard on the planet because of all the abandoned pages. And now, of course, within Meta, you can have it set up to be like an in memoriam page where like somebody takes over. But we will get to a point where there will be more people dead than alive on Facebook, which is crazy. But yeah, great point. Great point. Danielle, are you done, Cassie? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, totally.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we're in an age now that we're leaving behind technological signatures, and you know, these bits of us that live on through technology in a way that has never happened before, that the living has to grapple with in a new way. I mean, I get, you know, when your iPhone is like, do you want this photo collage of the saddest memories of your life? You know, like I get that all the time with like my fiance who passed away and my dad who passed away, like just on a random Tuesday afternoon. And it's like, oh, there you are, and, you know, and I think that between like the Facebook pages and just having things like pop up randomly, you know, sometimes I still get mail that is addressed to my partner that has somehow followed me through 3 moves and 3 years. And it's just kind of like, how is this information still finding me in this way? And so it feels different than just being spooked by a feeling or like a memory or something. You're having things thrust in your face in this new way. And I think that it's an interesting time because there's people who remember before that. And now with, you know, we're at this intersection of this generation of, you know, when we were kids, that was never a thing. And now here we are going into adulthood and it's never going to not be like it was before. So I think with that, how we examine ghost stories and people who have passed is going to change. And I think the ghost story, like he kind of remarks at the end of his book, like they're never truly going to go away. I just think that they're going to evolve. And there is something classically comforting about a traditional ghost story. But of course, nothing ever stays the same. So I'm just interested to see how it takes shape, you know, in 2026. So far away.
Well, so far away. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So scary. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because that happened to me as well. Unfortunately, our oldest cat, TT, we had to put him down earlier this year because he was attacked by a dog outside. And unfortunately, I had to take a bunch of pictures of his attack and he was, you know, not in good shape. And my iPhone was like, here's some memories from a month ago. And it was just photos of TT. Like, and I was like, thanks. Right when I was forgetting about it. Awesome. Cool. Thank you for that. But also on the topic of AI, which is super creepy, and not to, you know, speak for you, Kelsey, or anything here in case you were going to bring this up, but like, I think it was Robin Williams' daughter had to like make a statement where she's like, hey, can you please stop making fucking videos, AI videos of my father and sending them to me? Like, it's not helping. It's not good. It's horrible for the environment. Stop, please.
And it's not him.
And it's not him. Like,
stop, please. Oh, God.
Anyway, Kelsey, thoughts and
I'm
feelings?
saying, I guess AI in a sense. Because my curiosity in moving forward then is just shifting or what it'll look like. And we're not quite there yet. I think we're getting, as technology and like the hockey puck and everything, like smart homes become more prevalent and regular. I'm curious about the shifting goalposts for what falls then into the uncanny valley.
Yeah.
Because we've got a lot of uncanny, we think like the Victorian houses, the Gothic houses, like that's kind of, I think, our idea of it. But I wonder, now
Yeah.
I think it still is, but even like 2050, like years in the future, like, will my 2-bedroom bungalow now be the uncanny because it's not like the norm or it's outdated or
Yeah.
things like that. And then moving forward in the future, thinking of smart homes. And I think he referenced, and I'm not going to remember the name of the Ray Bradbury story because I'm awful, but he referenced the Ray Bradbury story where like the smart house is just going even after people are gone. And I wonder with the AI, and I think for years now, I think I was in college, they were trying to do like the like robots with like human skin faces. Like I wonder where that uncanny goalpost is going to get pushed to because it's already pretty awful. And now it's only getting worse. And I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
Like, what else are we going to try to do that we just should not be doing?
Have you
Yeah.
seen
So that's
videos of the VR of people like getting to see their deceased loved ones?
Oh God.
no.
There's a
And I
video,
hope to never.
Yeah.
video I saw of someone, I think she was in South Korea or something, and she, you know how you can see the POV from their
Mhm.
perspective, and she was meeting her like deceased 8-year-old daughter and like just crying and like hugging the air and stuff. I'm like, oh my God, this is
God.
absolutely terrifying and gut-wrenching and horrible and sad. And like, I don't want to speak for anyone of what helps heal them and make them feel better
Right.
of loss, but like, it's just a scary indication of like,
It feels too far.
AI just became a thing.
Yeah,
So
and I
where
think
is this going?
you know, and this brings me back to books that we've read in the past too, where we talk about just like constantly pushing our immortality. Like we're just still not
No one's quite
okay
comfortable with
with
the idea that we're going to die.
yeah, and like you were talking about it earlier, Kelsey, too, where you're just like, I don't remember what you specifically said, but like we're just on this floating rock. We're trying to make sense of things, but like we keep just pushing this back of like we used to be a civilization or a culture that was okay with, we embrace certain deaths and we embrace certain aspects of death, and now we still just need technology to like see our loved ones one last time, when instead, but you're also right, Danielle, people grieve differently and that might help a lot of people. But something that you said too, Kelsey, I think now even like the really, because yeah, we can sometimes attribute old Victorian homes to like spookiness and creaky floors and all that too, but I think some of these really nice multi-million-dollar like open concept, or even like they look like the shipping container homes, like those are still not just as creepy because of movies that have come out like Parasite or Megan or some of these other movies where you think these like massive like $1 million mansions are safe. Nay. Absolutely not. No. Well,
This one we did talk about, the total side note thing, but when he was talking about the smart houses, I couldn't help but think about the Disney movie Smart House.
Yes.
And I need to rewatch it to see what the differences would be now if we
They were so ahead of their time.
So ahead of their time. And honestly, when I think about technology and how far we've come in all aspects of technology, I still get really irritated that we don't have the you remember the movie in the Spy Kids movie where they just have the bar and they put it in the microwave and it like poof, it becomes a burger. Like,
yes.
Of all the things we could make, why don't we do that?
Why didn't we focus on this?
Yeah, that's about all the questions that I had. We've been chatting for a little over an hour. Was there anything that I missed that we wanted to bring up? This was a great discussion otherwise, though. This has been fun.
Yeah, this was fun. I loved hearing all of your perspectives on the book. I think it was really interesting and very timely, too. I'm stoked that you picked this one for October.
Yeah, it was really fun. It was a good read and one that kind of got me into the season a bit because I read it like right away, like the top of the month. So it got me into the spirit, even if it was a little sombering and sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for coming on. Definitely want to have you back. Trying to think of some of the future picks that would definitely make sense. I don't know if we have anything else. I wish we would have connected when we did Andrea Langford. That would have been so great. I'm trying to think if there's anything coming up. We'll have to think about it. We'll chat. But I'm super excited for the episode. Yeah, we'll stay in touch. I got you. I got your email. I'm so glad. Hi, Perla. So happy to have you guys on. So excited for the episode coming out closer to Halloween or on Halloween. Super excited about that. Yeah, next month we're reading about blood, which I'm not stoked for. I have read the book already, but blood excuse me out a little bit. Makes me a little nervous. I do have a oh, thank you. Yay, thanks, Sierra. I do have a video. I don't know. I'm gonna see if I can play it. So ready for 9 pints. Listen, a lot of people have really liked it, but I get really spooked out by blood. Let me see if I can get this to work. Is there anything while I work on this? Because I don't know if it's going to start playing the second that I bring it up. Is there anything that you guys wanted to plug for National Park?
Yeah, if you guys want to check out National Park After Dark, we're on Instagram at National Park After Dark, TikTok, Facebook, anything. If you look up National Park After Dark, you'll find us. Same thing if you want to check out the podcast and listen to our episode with Patches on Halloween. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, also on Patreon. We also do a book club. So if you need a second book and a second book club to join, you can join that on our Patreon. And we will dive into, we kind of let our book club members choose. So it's really ranged what we have read. We do nonfiction, we do fiction, historical fiction, novels, whatever it is, kind of just like what people are feeling. But
yeah,
if you need a second book club.
And if you're interested in episodes and are new and don't know where to start, our website has a really cool map on it that is like this interactive globe that you can, if there's a particular area that you're really interested in learning about or park, you can zoom in on the little pins and it'll link to the episode description and what park we cover and what topic we cover within that park. And we are going on like 350 episodes now, so there's plenty to choose from. So that's a good place to start. I think just go with the location you're most interested in learning more about.
Yeah, but if you are new to the podcast, just understand that Danielle and I started this on our own, and the first episodes we did it with our full heart, and we researched our little hearts out, but we had no idea how to use audio. So
the production, not the greatest. The
effort, A+.
I love it. Yes, go check them out. I'll share their website again. I do have a video here. I don't know if I click this, it's going to start playing. So that's why I wanted to. Okay, it didn't. All right, good.
Hello, my name is Rose George. I'm talking to you from Northern England, and I am the author of 9 Pints, a book which is not about beer, but about blood. And I spent a few years just wandering around the world of blood, anything from leeches to menstruation to trauma departments, and having a whale of a time.
So that was Rose George, our author of our November book. So definitely go check this out, and we will be chatting about this on November 30th. There are parts of this book that I had to skip. We will get into that because
You're making me very intrigued. Just solely based on your reaction to this book.
This is the sales pitch.
Yeah. It was a fascinating book. She traveled all over the world, like she mentioned in that video, and was exploring all different types of blood donation and stuff. I just get really, really skeeved out by the blood diseases chapters, like the bloodborne diseases. My OCD I start to spiral and start Googling things I shouldn't Google. I think I have every issue on the planet. There's I had to skip some parts, but okay, let me make sure I share this again, which I'm sure people know where to go, but just in case, here's the link again. Go check them out. Thank you guys so much for joining us. This has been fun.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to go ahead and end the live if you guys don't mind hanging out for a second, and then we'll see you guys soon. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.